Hi, I'm Dr. Jim Hoven, and today we're going to talk about hormones, and specific female hormones, and so you're going to want to check this out right now. The word hormones brings up a whole bunch of connotations in people's minds. It can bring anything from people going crazy because of their hormones to people having hot flashes because of their hormones, especially when we're talking about our female population, to people getting big and strong because of hormones. And in general, all of that takes place. You know why? Because hormones are one of the fundamental functions of the entire body. The brain makes hormones, other parts of our bodies make hormones, and it creates all of the physiological functions that drive how we thrive and live in the world. So today, we're going to talk about hormones, but specifically, we're going to take it just top level, just intro level for female hormones, because this is a very intricate and a very detailed topic that's too much for one short video. But what I want to do is assure you that if you are a female, that checking your hormones, having the levels checked, whether you feel great or whether you feel crappy, is something that will serve you well for the rest of your life, no matter what age you are, once you get to about 16 or so. So anyway, let's start talking about hormones. In general, know this. For hormones, there's far too many for us to talk about in one session, but the main ones with respect to females that will be checked are things like estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. Those are three of the big ones that we check. Now, you may say, testosterone? Wait, women don't do testosterone? That's a guy thing. No such luck there. So women need testosterone. And in fact, while the totals for women are very, very small compared to men, their percentages are actually very high when we look at the percentage of testosterone used for the functions that they serve. So here's the deal. With women, testosterone is seen just like in men to help with muscle growth and development, with temperament, with actually strength and vitality, all these kinds of things. But again, the numbers are far, far lower. So when we're looking at a man, the number of testosterone can go up to, in the normal range, up to 1,100 on the unit of scale that we're looking at. In women, we're talking about it being, 60 or maybe 80 compared to 1,100. So when we look at the numbers, the women's overall level and the number of what we call free testosterone, very, very different. Now, on women, we've seen women as having a testosterone that's free, and let me define free testosterone. So if we look at the total amount of testosterone in someone's body, male or female, there's a total amount floating around. And again, in women, it's going to be a lot less. But not all that testosterone is usable. Some of it gets bound up by a protein called sex hormone binding globulin, and not all of it is used for these physiological functions that we're talking about. So anyway, when we look at what this total is, if we look at how much of that is usable in the physiological processes of everyday life for a female or a male, it's going to be called the free testosterone. It's free to be used for these products or these functions that we're talking about. Does that make sense? So total is the overall amount in the system, and our free is, you can consider it something like our bioavailable testosterone. Now, in women, we've seen some women come in as low as 0.1. So 0.1 on the scale of free testosterone, when we would like to be up there in around the 2.0 range. So you can see that it gets really wide. That's a wide gap between 0.1 and 2.0. So that becomes critical. If a woman cannot, it is not balanced in her testosterone levels, it can just create lots of lethargy and cause problems with her energy, and cause problems with her ability to building and maintain muscle, which is important no matter what age you are. It should be stated that one of the biggest keys to longevity is how much muscle do you have? How much muscle do you carry around, along with your VO2 max? But that's, again, for another video. The muscle that we carry around is largely driven by our healthy levels of testosterone. So that's going to be one of the things that you should have checked, is your testosterone level. Another is estrogen and progesterone. Now, where these really get tricky is if the woman is on birth control. Then those can get whacked out, and you really need someone who specializes in that to take care of those. But again, for our video today, estrogen, progesterone, they vary with the cycle. And what we'll typically see is they kind of go into balancing in a teeter-totter sort of way. So as estrogen goes up, progesterone goes down, and then they start flipping to where they're almost even in part of the monthly cycle, and then the other one will go up while the opposite one goes down, and then they just keep going back and forth. So at the end of the day, besides those hormones, there are lots of other ones that include thyroid hormones. And we got all these hormones coming down from the pituitary. There's lots of them going on. But here's what I recommend. That if you are a female, 16, 17, maybe 18, get a blood work done that shows what your hormone levels are, because then an appropriately trained professional can look at those and say, okay, here's where you are. You may not need any treatment, likely, unless there's some other things going on, like very stressful lifestyle, poor nutrition. It could be that if you are in certain kind of sports that are very demanding and that limit calorie intakes. We've seen some gymnasts have these kind of issues. Other really elite endurance athletes have issues with some of their hormones just because of the physiological stress. But if you get a blood test that's checking these things when you're young, you're going to learn what your baseline is. And if we see that, then as you go through the next parts, years, and even decades of your life, you're going to know where you're starting from. Because all too often when women come in to get, and men too, but when women come in to get their hormones checked, they're noticing maybe they're in their 30s, maybe they're in their 40s, maybe in their 50s. And when they come in, they're like, wow, my hormones are so low, but they don't know where they ever started. So I'm a big fan of just saying, get a baseline done, get some blood work done. Providers do this kind of thing if they specialize in that work. So I would check that out for your testosterone, progesterone, estrogen, which typically shows its way in called estradiol, and then your thyroid hormones. Those are, and with the thyroid hormones, just a couple things there. Your thyroid has a lot to do with your energy levels and how you function. And if you have, so there's T3 and T4 thyroid. One is an active thyroid, how much you're using in a day. And so the other one is how much is being stored so that when you use all your active thyroid, the other one can jump in. So getting too detailed isn't it necessarily for this video, but just know that when you have, we want to check those two levels of thyroid so you know how much you're actively using and how much is in reserves. So that's probably enough for today. If you have questions, of course, you can reach out. You can reach me, jim@ramoslaw.com. And we'll be happy to answer those questions. So hopefully this helps. And until next time, remember, your health matters.